Hey, welcome to another episode of Airing Our Thoughts, the Bel Air review. And we're going to be talking about episode 2 of Bel Air, titled Keep Your Head Up. My name is Rickey Z. I'm a podcast manager, teacher, and mom. Uh, Loving this new look on a classic sitcom, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. And I'm going to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Stephanie Jones, or Lilac Calandra.
Both. It's synonymous. I'm one and the same. Okay. Hey, everybody. So happy to be back for episode 2. Excited to get into this episode. So many themes and topics that came up. I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast named The Freedom Cast. I'm a therapist. I'm a mindfulness life coach. So all this stuff is all up here in the mind, and so we get to dissect it and peel it back. So I'm awesome, and I'm excited to be here. Super excited.
Yes. All right. Let's welcome Charita. She wasn't here in our last episode, but we want to welcome her to this one.
Hi. Hey, ladies. I'm Charita Threed. I am a licensed mental health therapist. I also have a podcast with one of my friends called Inspire Her, the Total Woman with Red and V. We upload on Wednesdays. I'm excited to be here. I love this show too, and I'm ready to get into some good conversations with you ladies.
All right. Next, we have Coach E.
Hey, I am, oh Lord, I forgot my words as I've been talking for the last hour. I have a live Instagram show every Friday night. I'm a grief coach, and we talk about the grief that is affecting people in whatever way it is. And it's called the Grief Walk Talk Show. So I do that every Friday at 6. And then love being on here. I'm excited. What do I do? Oh, good God. I'll just cover really quickly. I'm in school to get my LPC. I've done anything mental health related you can think of. So I definitely understand a lot of the undertones in the show. And I'm just excited to be here. So that's a little bit about me.
All right. And next, we are going to welcome Vette.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to finally be here as well. I missed last week's episode, but I am excited to talk about this week's episode. So I am the host of the podcast Think and Grow with Vette Green. I usually air every Tuesday night live on Facebook and YouTube on the Evening Rush Network. And I am so excited to be here talking about this new show. I can't even believe that Will put a spin on it like this. I'm excited. Growing up in the 90s, well, I wasn't a teenager, but still in the 90s, I'm excited to be here talking about this.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining in for tonight's episode. So, last episode, we delved into the first episode a little bit, but mainly talk about the overall feel, first impressions of these new takes on the characters, new take on the storyline. We're getting a little bit more backstory on why why Will actually left Philly to Bel Air. Carlton, this very controversial version of Carlton that, if you really think about it, really isn't that controversial for some people. And just the new takes on these characters and the remake of Will kind of growing up and getting through life. And so now we'll probably get a little bit more into some of the details of the episode. So if you remember at the end of episode 1, Will and Carlton are at a party at Connor's house. That's Connor, that is Carlton's best friend. That's the one that's saying the N-word in the school locker room while look.
Yeah, he's doing a bit much. He's
doing the most.
But what he's allowed to do is what he's allowed to do.
Absolutely.
Exactly that. And we see Will talking to Carlton's ex, Lisa. We didn't get to talk about her too much in our last episode. But Lisa, if you remember from the sitcom, we don't see her until later seasons, and her and Will are an item. But in this version, Lisa and Carlton were a thing, and the breakup wasn't a very good one. So that whole thing with Will and Lisa getting, even just talking, riles Carlton up, and I think he pushes Will in the pool.
Yep.
He doesn't know how to swim. He gets out. Lisa saves him, and then he just gives Carlton a good 2-piece at the end. So, and so now we're seeing the aftermath of that. Just Will and Carlton, this beef, this rivalry that just seems so intense, and we don't really understand why. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think just going back to the episode, I think Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv did a pretty good job with not taking sides. And I think Carlton wants them to take sides, but I think they're doing a pretty good job in being fair and understanding the challenges that Will is having and what he experienced and what he'd been through. And at the same time, trying to support Carlton as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like that there were no sides being taken, that
Yes.
they stayed neutral. And I agree, Carlton did want them to take sides. I would too. Like I felt for both of them watching the episode. I'm like, oh, if that was one of my kids would be like, well, Mom, I'm your child and here it is. That's my nephew. And it's like, you don't really want to put yourself in between the two of them, but but I did like how it played out where they gave Carlton a chance to at least, air out whatever feelings he was feeling at that time with his mom. I did like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it definitely, when Aunt Viv pointed out, you kind of get what you gave when he pushed him in the pool and Will knocked him out. And yeah, I don't think that was taking sides either. I think she was pointing out the behaviors you're exhibiting towards your cousin are getting the reactions you're getting from your cousin. So in a sense, how can she defend him as her son? Because you're not really acting the way you should be to represent me as your parent towards your actual family member. So I like how she tries to, and that's always been Aunt Viv's thing, even in the old show. She would try her best to balance and let you know you're not necessarily right and he's not necessarily wrong. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and he even asked, why are you taking his side? Like, that's his perspective. I mean, it doesn't seem like Carlton has to take a lot of responsibility for things, I mean, and that's it's like, there's a sickness with being rich. I mean, it's like, all right, so I can throw my money around and do whatever I want, but he's like having to sit down and say, this was my fault. He's like, I was assaulted. You were assaulted, but why? Like, let's not forget, right? So we have selective memory now. That's I'm like, It's like, okay, I was assaulted. Yeah, because you almost killed him. He can't swim. So I would have punched him too, and anyone else who was involved. And it's just interesting to see, especially how it like runs on with how he feels towards Lisa. He's not even taking responsibility for that.
Correct.
And it's like everyone's out to get me. But no, take accountability for your own actions. Like, you did this and you got what you deserve.
And honestly, when he brought up the assault, I thought, how dare you? Because technically, you assaulted Will.
Yeah.
All he did was react.
Don't start, and there won't be none.
Right. If somebody was to come and say who goes to jail, it really would have been Carlton, because he would have been like, he literally pushed me or threw me, however you want to call it, into the pool. And I think Carlton's just used to never having to justify anything. Yep. Like you said, at the school, they do what they did before he probably ever existed. But as he's been part of that world for so long, he's continued to allow that behavior that they all exist from anyway.
Right. And so, he's definitely struggling with his identity. I mean, because if you look at his parents, they're pro-Black. They're pro-Black, and Carlton is there in the school, and I feel like he's struggling with his identity. Even allowing the guys to use the N-word and say other derogatory things to him in his presence, and he just kind of brushes them off. And when Will addressed him on it, his reaction was like, well, we say it, So
what have they instilled the pro-Blackness in Carlton? To me, that's where they haven't done that. You might know.
I wonder like what would happen if they were just singing those songs in front of like his parents. I mean, like what would their parents what would his parents said? Mm-hmm. Like I doubt they would have been like, oh, we don't use that word, but like even if they don't really use the word, they're not gonna be like, y'all can use it, it's okay, whatever. No. And they're gonna talk about the reason why they should be using that word.
At the friendships, I don't see a best friend. Maybe you guys do. I see minions. Carlton has minions.
He has minions.
Yes.
That he has more money than a lot of the minion kids.
Yes.
Because if you pay attention in the episode, they kind of alluded to his dad really making quite a few millions off of that cake. And so it sounds like he's kind of trumping their families, and none of them are really friends, but they do what he says.
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's where I'm like, okay, is Carlton a bully as well?
I think so. I think in a way, I think he's a bully, but like a coward bully, right? So that like, and it's crazy. I was just talking to a client about this. She was having a problem, right, with a coworker who was like, rah, rah, rah. And then all you need was one push and that person went down. So that's how I feel about Carlton. Like, he doesn't have anyone to check him, right? So if you're black going to like an all-white school, even if you're the corniest person in the black community, you're so popular at that school because you're black. So you must have all the culture and you know all the raps and all that. And so now that Will's here and they're actually seeing what being in the black culture is about, Carlton's like, oh, shoot, I'm about to be exposed. Oh, no, I got to stop this. Like, I got to drown him. I got to push him in the water because he's about to expose me to be a fraud.
I think Lisa checks him. Yeah.
But there's a lot of hate that you want to kill somebody. You didn't push him. You knew as his cousin he couldn't swim. You can't pretend you don't know somebody can't swim because you've been around him when you were small. So to me, you knew your cousin couldn't swim, but there's that much hate in your heart that you would want him dead. Because I'm like, Carlton got a dark side in this one.
He's just having things his way.
Well, against his cousin anyway. So that's why I'm like, when are they going to reveal what really went down between the two of them? And it can't just be a girl. It's got to be something else.
I think for Carlton that his blackness is more palatable for his white classmates.
Come on.
And then you have Will, who's from the hood. I mean, like, yeah, Philly, the way that they show Philly, it's the hood and really of the culture, and not having to play like he's down because he really is, because that's how he grew up. So like when you have that, that's some more authenticity that Carlton doesn't necessarily have, and that's threatening for him, especially if you're trying to keep it cool with the friends at school, trying to stay in the in crowd.
Will's personality would definitely trump Carlton, so he has to make people not like Will, or Will will knock him off his throne.
Not even just make him not like Will, just like make him look beneath everybody.
Correct.
That's what he's doing.
Trash.
And I think when he embarrassed him that first day at school and putting him on stage and stuff, I thought that was just mean.
He's treading on his territory. He feels like Will is coming in and treading in his territory, where he's this big superstar in his head, and now he has competition.
Correct.
And it's not even competition. I'm just saying there is no competition between Will and Carlton. I'm just saying what I'm saying. I'm sorry. There is no competition between those two cousins. One is real and one is still trying to find himself. You know what I mean?
And there never was.
But Will's still trying to find himself too.
But Will has a greater grasp.
More likable.
Well, it's not
more charming and more likable.
He's always been told he's a star. As his mother says, you're going to put on your crown. Will has always been told you are the shining star. It doesn't seem that Carlton is loved, but probably nobody's walking around telling him, put your crown on, get your crown on. You're going to be amazing. And Will has that light that just shines. Carlton has it too, but he doesn't realize he shines differently. And so he tries to kind of wield it with a sword like a warrior to let you know I'm here because I'm a little shorter, I'm a little darker, I'm a little different, and I need somebody to pay attention to me. So he feels like he has to work twice as hard, but he really doesn't. He has his own charisma, but he doesn't know how to harness it the way Will does.
You guys think Will has kind of, or is creating or developing that survivor's remorse personality with leaving Trey and leaving Betty?
PTSD for real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
I don't agree with that. I don't think he does. I think he wants to be there, and he sees possibilities. What he sees is I could go so much farther here than West Philly. What he saw in West Philly was, I'm going to go to West Philly, probably West Philly College or somewhere close by, play ball, make some money from my mom, live life. He got out there, and now it's like, oh, I could go to 10 more levels than I could ever have done back home. But to me, he doesn't want to admit it because he feels like it won't look good.
Correct.
I see. I think he's not quite there yet. I think because if you remember in the first episode, he's all about being from West Philly. He was all about staying close to home.
In that second episode, like, wait a minute, things aren't quite right, but things sure are different.
But I do think he does have some, not necessarily like survivor's guilt, but like that whole situation on the basketball court was pretty traumatizing. So
definitely
we're seeing him like having to deal with that and getting his confidence back on the court. And then just, the fact that his buddy Trey is back at home having to stay undercover. Because so like I'm sure he feels some way about that.
Definitely he feels some kind of way about that. What do you guys think about Hillary and her mom's relationship?
I like the dynamic. I like it because it shows a relationship between a mom and a daughter. A lot of times we don't get along, especially when you get a certain age. I like how they put the fact in there that she's living in the pool room as well, in the pool house as well.
Yeah, I like that too.
And I like that they're both so creative. That's why they bump heads, because her mom is like, I think her mom doesn't want her to go down the path she may have went down, or because I've been battling with this. I'm like, is her mom upset about the creative path, or is her mom upset because she's grabbing it with all her gusto and she's not going to let go to get married and have 3 kids? So I've been kind of like,
the second one, I think it's because Hillary is all about doing it her way. She's got a mission. She knows what she wants to do. She knows how she wants to do it, and she knows her brand. And like we see that later on with the whole cuisine interview and the cooking. She's like, this is my recipes. This is for my culture. These are passed on from my grandmother. And y'all, like, clearly I'm not the demographic y'all are shooting for. So this is not going to work.
And there's something shows that black side.
Yes, and that's so refreshing about this Hillary because she's so grounded.
Yeah, and she respects the blackness.
That's what I was about to say. Even though she's not from West Philly, she's actually acting more black than her mom, who is from West Philly, which is interesting. Because it's like, okay, how does that dynamic happen? Hillary, Carlton, Ashley, none of them grew up in the hood. They don't even know what that is, right? But she adopted more of the culture, and in a way is making sure that she's not turning into her mom, because it's like, I'm going to live out my dream. Vivian put her art down, for the sake of her family, and then I started to think about it, like, she didn't necessarily have to put it down. She could have taken a less break than 15 years. She could have done both, but she completely was like, I'm going to push this aside. And now might even be resenting Hillary because she's not going to do that. That's how I saw it. I was like, ooh, she might be resenting her. That's why I said it might be a combo of the choice of things she's doing. She doesn't really care about social media. I mean, she was talking all that trash, you know what I mean, about social media, even though people make big bucks on it. She doesn't really agree with it, but also, like, my daughter has the fire that I wish that I had. And
I think that's
fire catch on me. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a thorn with her. That's not Hillary's fault. And if she would just help Hillary, then Hillary could blow up. Right? Because I feel like
didn't she set up the interview?
She did, but she also knew Hillary wasn't going to do it. And I say that because we know as moms, sometimes we're setting our kids up. She's kind of knew she was setting her up for failure. You have a strong-willed daughter. She wants to represent these recipes as Black culture, and you send her to a magazine that's very whitewashed. To me, it was like, come on, Mom. You knew what was going to be the outlet of that. And then
I don't know. Maybe she was just giving her an opportunity. I mean, because they wanted Hillary to wear certain clothes, and it was more than just the food. They wanted her appearance to look a certain way. So Vivian may or may not have known that, but if I see an opportunity and I'm gonna say, hey, you can do this, and if it just don't work out, I think her reaction to it, I think, was more so like she wasn't supportive of Hillary not wanting to do this, more so than that wasn't a good fit. She was more so like, you blew this opportunity, and then you had the nerve to get on social media and write something negative about.
But that's what I mean, because I feel like if she really felt like it just wasn't a good fit, she would have come across different. But she felt like Hillary wouldn't acquiesce to everything that they wanted, and what they wanted to do was whitewash her down to the doggone spices she was using. Don't even cook and put it in your recipe. So I was in agreement with Hillary. I'm like,
I agree with Hillary too.
But I don't think the mom felt like it wasn't a good fit. I think she felt like, I set you up, you didn't do what they said, and now I look bad. So I still feel like,
yes, she wanted her to let her, she wanted her to do what she wanted, but in the path that mama wants, and the path that looks good for mom, and the path that looks good for the family, and that's not Hillary.
At all. I think even from like a therapist point of view, right, is like Vivian is trying to control everything. I'm like, I wonder how she was controlled in her childhood, or what happened, what was so out of your control, because very controlling people were very controlled. It just passes down, and then you make the decision. You say, I'm never going to allow someone to control me like that again, so I'm going to control everything. She's literally trying to control every single thing, especially about her daughter, and I'm just like, you have to let her expand and grow. I mean, don't parents know that it's like reverse psychology? If I say don't do this, they're going to want to do it. So I'm like, yeah, girl, do the hot couture. Wear what you want. Oh, yeah. That's what she even said. Oh, I tried to be the progressive parent. It didn't work. And I'm like, just agree with her and support her and love her and encourage her.
I think she's going to get to that point eventually. But what is the backstory with Vivian and Vi, Will's mom? Because they have a little friction there in that relationship too.
We talked about episode, and we're wondering the same thing, and I think it's going to be revealed later in the series, because it's not just friction, there's estrangement in the families. And because her children and Will and all of them, they're cousins in name only. At this point, they're learning each other, but none of them have been around each other. And in a sense, maybe even though the sisters in the first series got along, maybe they were still estranged themselves, where they didn't do much. Because when you think about it, they didn't seem super close in the first one either. It was kind of like, okay, we all need each other.
Vi was the bossy one. She was the bossy one, and
even in the original episode,
I think she was the oldest sister, right?
She was the oldest.
She was the oldest, I think, and took care of everybody.
She was like the mom.
Yeah.
That you were about to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. I mean, we were saying like, okay, I wonder what that dynamic is going to look like, because you could tell they have different styles of operating, of being, of seeing their children, giving them the option to speak or make a decision. So it was just very interesting, and that's what we did say that last episode. Like, when is this going to be revealed? There's only 10 episodes in this season. We looked it up. Ricky looked it up, did some research. So we're just trying to see when that's going to come about, because that dynamic, it's like a mirror of their kids' relationship. Or at least I'll say Carlton and Will, because Will is cool with Ashley, very cool with Hillary, but him and Carlton have the Viv and Vi kind of vibe.
Because Hillary accepted him. She was excited to have him, and Ashley too. I would like to see Ashley's character develop a little bit more.
Yes.
Oh, if she's gonna develop.
Yes. I was saying too, like, I wanted to see more of that immediate bond that they had in the sitcom, and we don't really see that. We barely see her in the first couple episodes.
Right.
You can see it developing though. Even from the very first episode when they were at the pool. Remember, when he came out, she was the first one to welcome him. Yeah.
I think it's coming. We got to remember, they're playing it from the background. She's sneaking around. So she's out meeting video game friends and running all down South Central and doing stuff she don't have no business doing. So I think
Right.
somewhere, because Will is from the hood, he's gonna slide into Ashley's world to kind of help her with, you know, whatever's going on.
Mhm. But I'm loving the Jeffrey character.
Oh my God.
And he handsome as no way.
Just handsome. But
He
we
is
were
very
saying,
handsome.
I mean, episode 2 proved again that he doesn't cook, he doesn't clean.
No.
We haven't seen a vacuum, a duster, anything of that nature. But he is cleaning stuff up. Let's not.
Yes.
He
He is
cleaning
thinking
stuff up
in a
in
different
that kitchen.
yes. In a different way, yes.
Oh,
So
things
what
are
is
getting
everybody?
clean.
Let me ask everybody's take on Uncle Phil. Do we feel like, you know, degree or not, profession or not, do we think he had a past life in the streets?
Oh yeah.
I think so. But I
He's
like
from the
his
country, of
swag.
course.
Look, I like his swag. I think he's fine too.
But
Bald head. What?
Yes.
But you know, he went to college. I know he went to college. I'm sure it's something, but you better believe if he did anything, somebody's going to dig that up as he's trying to run for the DA.
Not if
So
Jeffrey's.
if he did something, it's coming out.
Not if Jeffrey's got control over it.
Jeffrey to me,
Well, that's
Right.
true too.
behind the
That's true,
scenes.
too. Jeffrey
There's
is the
more
man.
to him, but Jeffrey keeps it all in check. Jeffrey makes his phone calls. That's
He's
what
like a
I
Jeffrey.
like
mafia.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, he's like the muscle man. You know,
Yes.
like, hold on, I'm going to send my Jeffrey out there to clean it up, you know, and make sure everything's all right. So I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want to get on his bad side. Like,
I know. Jeffrey, like, I'm already on it. I'm like, okay.
So
He's the new Olivia Pope.
Yes.
A fixer.
Yes.
Jeffrey Pope.
It's handled.
it is handled.
That's
So
right.
I want to go back to there's a couple things like Will's PTSD and how that's affected him trying to get on the basketball team, which that we have a moment between him and Jazz where Jazz is able to kind of get him to open up a little bit, and then he has this bonding moment with Uncle Phil, but then that's also adding more to his and Carlton's rivalry. Like, how do you think? What were your thoughts on that interaction where Uncle Phil and Will are playing basketball, kind of getting him out of his head to get him ready for trying out for the team, and you see Carlton sneaking in the background, looking extra angry, mean mugging.
That's the relationship that he craves from his dad. That's how I feel. He craves. So that's just adding additional lighter fluid to the fire that's already brewing. So now he's definitely going to try and play up Will's past, even though Will didn't really have a past. He just made a stupid
it was just that one
mistake.
situation.
It was just a situation. But I think Carlton is going to try and play that up to make everybody go against Will. I love this show because it shows a total. It took a different spin on how we look at, you know, Bel Air, how we looked at the Fresh Prince. It took a totally different spin on it, and now we're like deep diving into all of these. Even as far as not to go back, but even the relationship with Jazzy. Do you guys find it interesting that he's going more into Jazzy's world I think he relates more to Jazzy Jeff than he does the other people, and that's why he's looking for this relationship or developing this relationship with him. I found that interesting, the way they are playing it out, you know.
Well,
I like this Jazz. He's
more hip.
He's more
level-headed.
He's handsome.
Yeah, he's handsome, level-headed, and like
yeah,
he's got some wisdom. And I think there are moments in the sitcom where Jazz, you know, in his roundabout weird kooky way that he like weird kooky way, like he could kind of have some gems. He had some gems every once in a while. You know how some people are like they say some of the most random off the wall thing, and like you think about it for 2 seconds, like, man, that kind of makes sense. I'll put that to use. I think this is less of the kookiness and more of the I have some wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah, and we got to remember the time frame. Like, you know, like we talked about before, it was sitcoms everywhere in the 90s. That's what they wanted, and that's what they were going to play it for. If And all of these nuances we talk about are not different. They were all pieces. They're just choosing to focus on them in this series. But I wanted to say about Carlton, I don't agree that that's the relationship he wants for his dad. The first thing his dad said on the basketball court was, I tried to do this. And Carlton chose to turn me down. Carlton wants to impress those white children at that school more than his dad. And when his dad said, well, he's playing lacrosse, you could hear in his voice the disappointment, like, I'm not downing the sport, but because I don't know how to do that, that we lost that connection. So to me, how can you stand outside with your lip hanging all out and you're mad? And I mean, it's jealousy and it's normal, but you're the one that chose not to have that connection with your father. You could have just as easily been on the court on a regular basis with your dad, whether you play basketball or not. So to me, it's like, why does he have to play on a team to play with his dad? So that's a choice Carlton makes, to not engage with his dad. So to me, I was kind of like, I ain't feeling you, dog. You don't get to be mad if your dad is trying to connect with you and you don't choose to do the connection.
But then I'm like, oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, like, well, maybe Carlton's seeing it as, like, he might be a disappointment to his dad because he's not living up to what his dad thought he would have in a son. I mean, like, just think about, like all the things that a dad wants to do if they have a son. My dad was a football player, and I'm the oldest out of his 3 kids, and like, there's a 10-year difference between me and my brother. But there were things that I knew my dad wanted as someone who wanted a son too, like wanting to be able to that person play sports. And so eventually he got the football player that he wanted, just like him. But I can totally see that. Like, yes, your dad wants you to do what he did and be into what he's into, and that father-son bond, and they don't really have that. They have that similar ambition, but they have it in different ways.
Right. But imagine if they weren't in Bel Air, would he still play basketball with his dad? Is he making the lacrosse choice because that makes him fit in and gives him a popular lead, or if he didn't live there, more than likely he might not play basketball at school, but his dad is simply saying, I just want to be on the court at home with my kid. The dad isn't saying I necessarily wanted you to play sports at school. I'm just saying he's losing out on a basic connection because he's thinking it has to be produced at school. And then I think in his mind, with this particular character, if I play basketball, I am a cliche.
Yeah, and I think he's caught in like a combination of all of those, because now it's like, all right, like you're saying, Coachy, I want to impress the white students at my school, but at the same time, I do want that relationship with my dad. But I don't have enough of the culture to even connect with my dad, right? All we do is connect. Okay, I don't know if it was in this episode, but they were playing chess. Okay, we talk about different politics and different things like this, and and scholarships and internships in the summer and things like that. That's not enough for that connection. And I think, we know the jealousy came up, and I like that the show shows us those moments where Colton is seething. I can't say that he is seething.
You
can feel the steam coming off him. I love those moments.
Turning into the little green monster. You can see.
Yeah.
I swear I saw like smoke coming up. I was like, oh, I got a little scared. I had to kind of like, oh shoot. But I think he's jealous because he wants a connection. And once again, Will has come in so effortlessly and said, I can do this easily. And now, Dad, he's taking my dad away from me. Okay, he took the shine here. He took the spotlight here. He's tall. He's handsome. He can fit the suits that I couldn't fit, right? I thought I was going to have a growth spurt. He could fit those suits. Now he's taking another thing from me. Like, oh, no, I gotta destroy his name. But I think at the undercurrent, he does want that relationship with his dad, but he has not made the choice yet. Is it more important for me to connect with my dad or connect with these white students at my school?
And Carlton has his strengths too, and he just needs to figure out what they are. He has his strengths too. But that's one of the things that when we send our kids to a predominantly white school, they're going to be influenced by that. I mean, that's something that's to be expected. That's their peer, that's their core peer group. And a lot of times we want to get our kids out of the public schools because they may have a reputation and they may be a little more rough, or we want to set up them opportunities. But when we do that, we also take that risk that this is going to happen. So what do we do to keep them grounded when they spend the majority of their time, their wake hours or whatever, in school around this population?
Right.
I mean, it's expected. My kids went to mainly white schools.
My kids did too.
But by the same token, as far as what you do with your parent, if you choose to, like I said, to me, we got to realize he's not 10 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
These are calculated choices on Carlton's part to look a certain way because, like he said, I run this school. He wanted Will to know this is my domain, this is my world.
Right.
So at this point, he's smart enough to calculate what he needs to do to be the big dog in the white school world,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he's going to do, even if it bothers his dad, even if it keeps him from the relationships he needs to have. And as far as Will may never have played basketball with a grown man in his life. That may have been his first time. But Carlton is caring about it. It's like, okay, you're coming in messing my world up and making me look bad, even to my dad. But by the same token, Carlton's trying to play it in a way that he stays safe where he goes every day. This was
after the fight too. This was after the fight too. So, this was after the big fight that he sees him with his dad. So again, that him feeling like, oh, they're taking his side or they coddling him. He could feel that way.
Yeah, I think that we were talking about like that because he is so like angry and upset about Will and his presence being there and like him wanting to dig up like the reason why Will is there. Like I don't think he doesn't realize like you doing this digging, you're trying to ruin Will. That's gonna mess up you because you have no idea that your dad's the reason why Will was able to be there in the first place. Correct. And whatever Uncle Phil had to do to get Will there so quickly on short notice. Like there's so much that he's going to have blinders on that he's not going to be able to see. Number one, because it's really none of his business. You got to be in the child's place. So like it's really none of his business. But also like he's so focused on this rivalry that he's not going to see the forest for the trees.
Right, and not being honest. Even the rumors that's going around the school making Will look like he started the fight. Just a perception that they're getting, and that's why the coach, treated Will that way when he went out to try. Like, we don't tolerate that type of behavior around here, kind of thing. Not knowing.
I always hate that when they say they don't tolerate something of Black children, because you'll tolerate it out of the white kids all day long, and so
they do.
More than likely that kid had done that type of stuff before because they didn't say anything about his behavior or even Carlton's, but it's always, we don't tolerate that out of the Black student. So that always hits my nerves. But I think he now sees, okay, this is how Carlton plays this school world. And he's trying to figure out what's my next move here. How do I move in this world? I don't think it's because I hate when people think you automatically from the hood and don't know how to act or be around a white set. It's more so I got to navigate a little differently than what I thought because he thought his cousin would have his back and now he knows he won't.
Right. I think that hurt him too.
Making him walk, not giving him a ride to school. I'm like,
but look, that blessed him.
Yes,
that was a blessing. I'm like, oh, that's how I feel. I'm like, oh, yes.
He got his own ride.
I'm like, what? It's a nice car too. I'm like, okay, he's probably never ridden anything that nice. But then I was thinking too, just going back to the point that was just made, like he has to learn how to. This is Will. He has to learn how to fight dirty in a different way, like not with your fist. In Bel Air, you fight with your mind. You don't really fight physically. You know what I mean? Like, so he has. It's like growing him and it's exposing him to a new level of like, oh, I have to use my brain, which he has. You know what I mean? And I forgot to say this in the beginning. Will shines in his neighborhood or his community because there's so much darkness. There are a lot of people who shine, but Carlton shines because everyone else shines around him. So he doesn't really stand out. Like, yeah, he's good in his own right, but everybody's good. People are playing lacrosse. People are getting good grades. Everyone's throwing around money with their nice coats on. You know what I mean? So Will was able to stand out because not a lot of people were doing that. But now he's in a whole other world where he's like,
where do I fit in?
Where do I fit in? I'm not punching people. I'm not bringing the West Philly and the hood out. I can still fight, but I have to use my brain, which I have, and I don't have to depend on that hoodish mentality necessarily.
Okay, but on the real, guys, do you feel any kind of way about Lisa dating Will when she used to date Carlton?
No.
I did.
That y'all just
Oh,
said it because y'all like Will.
No, I did. I
That's what
did.
you did.
Who said
Okay.
that?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, come on, Vette.
Why?
I did. Just as I would be lying to myself if I wouldn't be like, okay, if that was my son and there was this one female and this female was dating my nephew also, absolutely not.
Mhm.
You might get a little side eye from me, like,
Yeah,
really?
I don't know.
I mean, but look at how they met. They met. It was like love at first sight. You know, it was real organic.
Listen to her.
Walk with me. Just walk with me here. Come on, y'all. Walk with me here. They met. They met that connection. They had that eye connection. They didn't know who was who. You can't. Come on. You can't turn that off. Come on now.
And I'm with you on that. Nobody told her he was their cousin. Not Hillary, not Carlton, not Aunt Via. Nobody said nothing. So this girl is going into it starry-eyed, like, you know, Lilac is saying. And boom, she finds out a lot after the fact. And you can see she's trying to pull back a little bit, but that attraction is right there. So I don't know how it feel either. I feel like if she knew from the beginning, I have a different feeling. I'd be like, "You wrong, girl."
Yeah.
You're right.
But
when did she find out? When did she find out when he pushed her in the pool?
No, when it was like the Philly sandwich, wasn't that one?
That's the first time they met. That's the first time they met. That's the first episode. But I do appreciate, like, up until this point, it looks the second episode, like, she's just like you cool, and I can admit that I'm attracted to you, but like, that's your cousin, and like, we didn't end on good terms, and like, that's drama I'm not really trying to be in the first place, because Carlton's like dogging her out too behind her back throughout all of this. Right. And she's just like, I don't got time for this. Like, I already got to deal with the fact that, like, I'm a scholarship kid and
I'm an outsider.
I'm an outsider.
Dad is the chief of police.
But like, she's mentioned as a scholarship kid, but like, she's also just, I think she's probably raised closer to what Will was raised as opposed to Carlton.
But she definitely don't have the bank's money.
She doesn't really have a lot of money at all.
That's another dynamic that we're exploring slowly. His mom and Lisa's mom, Aunt Viv and Lisa's mom were very close.
Right. They were like,
so that's a dynamic I think they're going to keep exploring. And there's something that exploded in that relationship outside of just a bad high school breakup. So, and maybe that's why Aunt Viv isn't saying anything, because you can tell the tension when her and Carlton are, with each other. And it's like,
but she knows what Carlton is doing drugs. She knows Carlton is doing the drugs. Lisa knows that.
There's more to the breakup than just something simple and high schoolish.
And I think also, like, because it mentioned, she mentioned that after she and Carlton broke up, like, she was considered more even an outcast, because for them at that school, Carlton was considered the golden boy. And like, how dare this black girl come in here and then break his heart like that? Like, so like, she's kind of dealing with some other stuff. Like, she very much is an outsider, like Will is, and that's probably another reason why they connect so well.
Yeah, definitely how they connected. I do agree with that.
And we know how manipulative Carlton is. Who knows what he said to that school? You know, how he spun it and had her look. I'm like, who knows what happened? And we might never really know. I mean, unless we see it, maybe like a flashback or something. But
and you can tell Carlton, when he gets mad, he goes for the jugular. He
can get very ugly.
He's a dirty fighter.
Everything.
Very.
Yeah.
Will might fight, but he doesn't go for the dirt. Will's gonna just try to fight you on even ground, but Carlton's always gonna come to the earliest place he can. So
I also think, like, I think Will realized that because he's already an outsider, he has to tread lightly with how he reacts with them, because he could, if wrong move, he could be looked as a thug, he could be looked like that troubled kid from the hood, that charity case. Like, he has to really be conscious of how he moves and reacts to anything that anybody at school and Carlton does to him, because that has a bigger blowback on him and whatever opportunities he might get from being in Bel Air.
Right. And we know when the police comes around and his flashbacks of the police, he definitely has that.
And I don't know why. nobody has put him in therapy. Anybody else thought about that?
That's a good question.
He literally sat in jail. He was basically kind of attacked on that playground. Him trying, in a sense, we don't want to admit it, but he's covering for Trey because he could cover it. This is his gun. So he's got all these things that are connected one day. And, Trey is not acknowledging that. And I think he should, hey, man, you cover for me as well.
Right.
I like how
I guess Trey was saying basically your ego put us in this situation because you allowed this boy to talk you into coming here knowing the type of guy that he is. You put us in this position. He's been like, Will put them in that position because they shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Your hand never wants to say why you pulled the trigger. That's the thing I dislike. It's like, okay, you're trying to say it's Will's fault, but who had the gun in the backpack and was ready to take it to that level was not Will.
It was Will's fault. His ego did push them there. And Trey even said,
he not have been on that playground. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But why did you bring a gun? What if you know Will's ego was going to go to that level? You knew Will. So do you think he honestly wasn't going to pull that out at the moment of truth? So I feel like Trey contributed as well. It was a two-way street. They both had ego involved in that.
Yeah.
Trey definitely. Yeah.
I like how they're depicting the culture accurately for a lot of people. A lot of young guys fall into that same trap that Will and Trey have fallen into, where they don't want to talk for fear of retaliation. Will's lucky enough to be able to have family, on a entirely different part of the coast and be able to go there. But Trey's here, but still Will won't tell what really happened. So I do like how they're accurate. Well, in a lot of instances, they're accurately depicting what could happen. I mean, he's running for that scene on top of the building had me like, oh my God. Like as a mom thinking, oh my God, what if that was me and I didn't have a place to send my child? And, how would I feel in this instance if this was going on? And then Will over in Bel Air dealing with all of those emotions. Imagine how that things like that happen. Things like that happen is all I could think of.
It's funny because at the intro, it did start on the basketball court with the man twirling him around. So that was cute. And then the incident happened on the basketball court.
Yeah, you get that like inside. I know we're wrapping up, but I just want to go back to the therapy question. I think it's the stress complex, right? That this is a strong young man. Also, like you can't give someone help unless they're saying sometimes I need help, right? So Will's like, no, I'm good. He's potentially very strong. We see him in those weak and vulnerable moments. I'm thinking too, why did they put him in therapy? Like talk to somebody, do something. But they're like, oh, he's strong.
They're trying to keep that under wraps. They're trying to keep all that stuff under wraps.
I don't think he's so strong. Nobody's talking to him. They're doing everything, but nobody's coming and saying, how you doing, son?
But why not?
What happened that night? What really went down? They're worried about how they're looking. They're worried about how he's going to behave. And they're worried about
Bel Air.
Yeah.
But nobody has stopped and went in that room and said, let's talk. You okay? You need some help? Where you at? And it's like that piece is being ignored. So I don't think he knows to tell them he's having these PTSD flashbacks because nobody's acknowledging that he has a reason to have it.
And we have to also remember that a lot of times in our community, we don't know to put a name on it. We just think that, it'll pass. You're having nightmares. It'll pass because of what you saw, not thinking that this could be PTSD. Oh, PTSD. Until a few years ago, I thought it was something related to people in the service. So it's a really, really great show. It
is great. Yes. I'm really
has us talking.
Yes. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this. We'll stop right there, but we're gonna see more of this as we get further into the season. Will's PTSD, the rivalry between him and Carlton. What in the world does Uncle Phil know about his dad, and like the relationship between Vi and Viv? Like, how all does this come together? So, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. Welcome to Vette and Charita for joining us in this episode. And you'll see more of us in and out of this series as we go through the season. So, thank you very much, everyone.